All right, so today I'm gonna do an unboxing video. I've never done one before, so we'll see what happens. This is, doesn't even have a brand, Rangers alcohol ink kit. I've been looking into getting into alcohol ink, and this was the cheapest way to see if I like it before I go and spend a ton of money on all the supplies. So let's get started. All right, so open the box. Let's see what's in here. Okay, so you get a little ink pad. It's archival ink, so this would be similar to any of the Ranger archival series. We use those a lot. It's a permanent ink. It's ink-based instead of dye-based, so it's going to work with, it's not going to work with embossing powders, more permanent, and you can paint over it. So that would explain why that's there. So obviously you can ink over it once you let it dry enough. What do we have? Alcohol blending solution. And then these are your inks. So this is gold and sunshine yellow, stream, and red pepper. So get there, some extras. Okay, so you also get stamp block and some felt pads. This is just has Velcro. One of the sides, or the hook side of the Velcro stapled to it. So literally you could just make one of your own. Don't spend money on this. Just take a wood block and staple some Velcro on it. And then these felt pads, you can literally cut hundreds of them out of sheets of felt. So and you'll see packages of these, you know, at Michael's or something. Like, you can get this for like 10 bucks. Definitely not worth it. You can easily make your own on that note. All right, what else? An acrylic pad of some sort for something. This looks like it's cardstock. I'm sure it's not regular cardstock. We'll get into that once we get into the instructions. And they give you some stamps. Not sure if we're going to use those today. Well, we'll use those just to see what comes in the kit and what you can make out of whatever's in the kit. So let's see what we can figure out. All right, so it comes with a little manual. Tells you everything that we just talked about. Okay, so wow, this looks messy. That's why I've never gotten into it so far, is because I'm like, I don't know if I want the mess. All right. So, apply several colors of alcohol ink and 2 to 3 drops of the mixative to ink applicator. This is the ink applicator. Put a little pad on there. I apologize if you can hear the dogs barking in the background. They're not happy right now because they're not in here. Okay, stamp the ink tool directly onto the glossy cardstock until it's covered. All right, so this is obviously the glossy cardstock. Looks like it's not photo paper. Don't use photo paper. Photo paper, the goal of photo paper is to dry your ink as fast as possible. So when you take it out of the printer and everything, it doesn't smudge. So don't use photo paper. You can use, it's literally advertised as glossy cardstock. It is not photo paper. It does not have the dryative, that's not a word. It does not dry fast. So it should work. So that's essentially what they've given us here. All right, so I would put it on something, anything. My scrap paper is not large enough. Nope. Hold on. There we go, some computer paper back here, unless you want your workspace all inked up, which I guess is an option. Holy moly. All right. Let's try this. Okay. Apply several drops of alcohol ink. Open it up, see what happens. Okay, it's got a really fine, I don't know if you can see that, tip on it. I appreciate the fact that there's not those tiny little seals because I can never get them off. Just gonna leave my lids off. And this mixative that they're taughting is a, it's gold. Okay, so it says put several drops. Whoa. So that soaks right in. Not sure how this is gonna work. Woo. Okay. You don't have to squeeze the bottle. I squeezed the bottle and I got way more than I needed. All right, so stamp the ink tool directly onto the glossy cardstock until it's covered. Whoa. Gnarly. Stamp, 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 stamp. I am somewhat concerned. I wonder how these colors blend. Like, I feel like if you stamp too many times, you're gonna end up with a complete mess of colors. And you're gonna end up with mud eventually. And I also am not sure, you should probably put the colors back in the same spot that you used before as much as you can, because that same thing's going to happen. You're eventually going to mix it all together and it's going to turn out mud brown. So the gold doesn't seem to be transferring at all. So put a little bit more on there this time, see what happens. Okay. I see some of the gold this time, but as you can see, it's also, I put more on because I anticipated what I was getting into. It says cover until the whole thing is covered. Okay. This goes against my very nature. That is some crazy. I'll see. I'm gonna get upset if I end up with this art thing that is like ugly because I didn't know what I was doing. Oh. Okay, yes. So when you end up stamping over an area more or with a color that is, you know, not the original color, and you can see it kind of right here, you're getting that blending going on, and eventually if you just keep going, you're gonna get essentially brown. So it's gonna get muddy and not as clear. I'm going to stop right where I am just because I don't know too much. There is such a thing as too much, apparently. All right. It says add several drops of blending solution to the tool and stamp over the background to blend. Okay. Well, I feel like it blended a lot already, so there's that. We'll do the we're following the instructions. We're following the instructions. It's really hard for me. Maybe that's why I don't do unboxing videos. All right, so this says alcohol blending solution. It smells like just straight up, oh my goodness. See how it's literally just alcohol. You could use standard isopropyl alcohol. So it says stamp over entire card. See, you're gonna end up, this is a great way to also end up with mud. Maybe I'm just, I don't know, it could just be me. I feel like I'm eventually just gonna end up with a teal background because I use too much blue. But hey, If you don't like it how it turned out the first time, you can use your blending solution to spread it around. You're really just reactivating the ink. Really all you're doing, since obviously alcohol ink. So you're just reactivating the ink, and so it's not dry anymore, so it can blend more. I really was okay with it before, but okay. So this is what we have. It says stamp image with archival ink and let dry completely. Okay. You definitely don't want to stamp this when it's wet. You don't want to get if you stamp it when it's wet, you're gonna get blend, like I don't even remember the word. It's not gonna be as crisp as you want it to be. Ooh, this stinks. There's just a little bit of wetness still going on there. Smells like I'm taking off nail polish. All right. And then it just stamp image. So I wonder if they intended this to be your stamp blank. Clear stamp set, acrylic block. Okay. They intended you to use this to put your stamps on to stamp. I'm not going to do that because I have 1.5 million stamp blocks. So I'm just going to leave that. There it is. Grab a stamp block. Have a few million. All right. Guess we're going to pick one of these because I don't... Oh, wait a minute. Now see, look at me. I'm getting out of doing it again. All right. We're just going to use the ones that came with the kit because that's what we're supposed to do. And it says use the mountains. Okay. Oh, I hate this. I always feel like I'm gonna rip them. Okay. Oh, it would help if I could find a long enough block. That should work. Stick those mountains on there. Woo. So this is a distress ink. The standard archival, and I think I have my black out. The standard archival black is not a distress. So, I don't think I only have one other of the distress inks. Distress inks tend to oxidize after you use them, and it makes it look a little bit rough, which is the whole point in distress inks. So they dry fuzzy, if you will. The lines are not as crisp, like I was talking about earlier, about waiting for it to dry so you get crisp lines. That's probably why they included distressed in the kit. All right, so bring your stamping 101. Bring your, oh, and I'm shaking the camera because I'm hitting this so hard. Bring your ink pad to the stamp, not your stamp to the ink pad thoroughly. If this is the first time you're using a stamp, obviously, it looks like in this set, it's actually pretty good. Some of the ones, the cheaper stamps that you get from, like off the Chinese market, foreign markets, are not, they tend to have like a coating on them when you get them. They need to be cleaned first if you want the, ink to not pill and bubble up before you get it to the card. So, all right, give it a minute. Don't just, give it a minute for the ink to transfer. Push all around. Don't push too hard or you'll smudge. Oh, pick it up. You see, that's what I meant. So you see how it looks? I can't see what you see right this second. Just based on where I have the camera. But you can see it's literally has like holes in it. It's not a crisp image. And I assume that that's because this is not dry cardstock. And it's glossy. I did not approve this message, if you will. So the instructions don't say anything about letting it dry. So that's even more intriguing. So now I'm just going to get a piece of regular, well, we'll just stamp it right here. I'm going to stamp it again and see if it's something to do with the stamp or if it's just that cardstock. Try it again. Same deal. Yeah, it's much clearer on like a normal piece of paper. I missed part of the image. That's because the surface underneath it is not flat because I didn't realize I was going to be stamping, but yeah, so that's still wet. Even the stamp is still wet. Okay, that's the point in these videos. Walking you through it so that you don't have to suffer the same mistakes that I have. Okay, so I'm gonna call that one not necessarily a failure. We've learned some things about alcohol ink and how it operates. If you have a hair dryer, I would dry it with a hair dryer before you go or let it dry overnight before you go and try to stamp anything on it. I tend to make backgrounds in bulk. Like when I'm making them, I just make a ton. So this would be good for backgrounds in that sense, where you could make a bunch and then let them dry overnight and then cut them down the next day or whenever you go to use them. That would work for that. So, okay. Moving right along. The second section here says, apply several colors of alcohol ink and 2 to 3 drops of mixative to craft sheet or slick surface. Craft sheet. So something not included in the package. The little book shows it straight up on a table. Don't think anybody wants to put it on their table. I don't want to put it on my table. That's just going to be a bigger mess. See what I have. So I used to have one of those, like you can get them at the dollar store in a 2-pack. It's like a clear, clear placemat. And I love them and I use them, and sometimes I use them beyond recognition and they end up getting thrown away, and I don't think I have any right now. Please hold. I know I have something that will work. I just gotta figure out what it is. Oh, there we are. Okay. This is just a transparency. It's just a clear piece of plastic. You just don't want something that the ink is going to dry to. Because it looks like, based on what I think they're about to do. All right. Add several drops of blending solution over inks. All right. So basically we're making a mess. Woo! If I liked like free and open art, I guess I would like this, but I just feel like I'm making a mess. We'll see what happens. See, I haven't seen, like, I can't see the gold on the one that we've already done, so we'll see what happens. All right, now it says add several drops of blending solution, aka alcohol. Ta-da. Looks like we've made a mess. Grab another piece of, you want to do it with the slick side down. And then it says swipe paper glossy side down through the ink mixture and lift. Okay, I already have stuff on my hands. I'm not a huge fan of getting gross. I'm gonna put a glove on, and I'm gonna use something to swipe it with. Craft clip. Let's use a craft clip from the dollar store. Great deal. There's like 6 in a package. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be messy. Swipe paper down through the mixture. Yeah, see, I figured this was gonna happen. Woo! See what I meant about mud? I think that with some of these things, less is more. Don't use all the colors. Or just don't get as aggressive as I am, maybe. I'm not sure. I've created slime. You can see the gold this time, though, so I guess we've got that going for us. The picture that they show in the book is colorful and not blended at all, which that's only going to happen if you don't add blending solution. Let's see what we can make happen. I'm just going to leave this clip on here and let it dry like that, because this is a mess. Okay, clip number 2, paper number 2. Hope I don't use, how many more do we have? Ombre and plaid. Ugh. Apparently they only give you enough paper to do what they want you to do, which is kind of sad. If you have some glossy cardstock, you can use that. Glossy is really what you need, because otherwise it'll dry too fast. I don't have any glossy cardstock because I never use it for anything. So I guess I'm just gonna grab a piece of regular cardstock to clean up this mess. See what we get. I feel like I'm making a jelly print right now. Leave a comment if you want to see some jelly print tutorials. I have created gold smudge. Looks like a Rorschach test. All right. Put that aside to dry. Cleaned up all the liquid stuff off of this. I'll probably keep that in a kit for later if I ever decide to do this messiness again. And then moving right along. All right, but this time I'm definitely putting on gloves because I don't need to go into work tomorrow with blue fingers. Okay, so we've done 2 out of the 4 things. They're calling that a mono print, and they want you to stamp over it like we did with the last one that was fuzzy. So don't want to do that again because we've proven that it doesn't work. Once that dries, and you can see it's literally drying like sludge. Once that dries thoroughly, we'll try it again. If I get the same result, we're going to try some different types of ink to see if we can get one that works. All right. Ombre, it says. Adhere felt to the ink applicator tool and apply 1 color of alcohol ink to the ink applicator. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Let's do some single. Okay. New felt thing. And these come in all sizes if you choose to buy them. We have this one that came with it. I also have circles. And circles, obviously it's harder to recreate the circles. So is there a benefit to either one? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so it says stamped ink tool directly on top of half of the glossy cardstock. Okay. They did blue in the book, so I guess we'll do blue. And I'm going to put some gold in it because I like it. Or at least what... Oh, I just shot that all over the place. See? This is why I wear gloves. I'm not sure if gold and blue is going to work. We'll find out. It says stamp it over see, stamp ink tool directly on half. I feel like you can just slide it, maybe? I don't know. Okay. Apply blending solution over inked felt to lighten the color and stamp on the bottom half. What? Okay. Now it wants me to do this. And do this. Can't wait to figure out how this is supposed to work. Okay, we've got a two-tone mess. And then change the pad. I can't help but think that I'm putting too much ink on these things because it's like soaking through to the Velcro part. Change the pad and stamp blending solution, aka alcohol, over the entire area to blend. See, they keep saying stamp, and I feel like I could probably achieve some different looks here. So I would start with the darkest part and stamp down because you want to bring some of that dark into the lighter area. I don't tell you that. They just want you to keep playing with it so you have to buy more product, I think. Now that's kind of neat. It kind of looks like tie-dye. Get that blended out a little bit in the middle. Sorry that you're shaking. I'm gonna have to figure out a better solution for that. This is the first video is recording on my phone. I usually use a webcam, but it's not very, I wasn't satisfied with the quality, so trying my cell phone. We'll see if that's any better. Okay, it works. It's funny, the colors in the pictures in the book are not the colors that they send with you. I'm okay with it, but that's funny. So you can see little outlines of gold in there. Not really worth using, I don't think. I don't think you get very much out of it. You know what? Just to be different, I'm gonna put drops. Woo! Woo! Make some polka dots, and then I'm gonna drip 1 drop of blending solution over each one of them, just to see what happens, and let it go. It feels a lot like watercolor. It's going to run into anywhere that you end up putting the solution. So let's say you do it down this way. That color is going to move right along the path. It's just, instead of water, it's alcohol. Ta-da! It's kind of neat. And of course, it depends on which way you have your art. So I just connected all of the bubbles, and let's pick it up. Ta-da! And anywhere there's a hard stop, and that's the same with watercolor. If you let something dry in a, you can see them forming. You see those outlines forming? That's because it dried there. So if you don't want any of those lines, you want to keep it, make sure the whole card gets saturated simultaneously. You don't want to let anything sit too long. I'm playing at this point. Yeah. That's kind of cool. Ta-da! Alright, stop playing. Okay. Let that one dry. Put on well, that's not going to work because the whole thing's wet. Set it to the side. Alright, last one. So final, oh, they give you one extra in case you screw one of the 4 up. All right, so apply several drops of alcohol ink and blending solution in a row onto the ink applicator. Okay, so let's take a pad. They did this with red, so we'll do this with red. And it says, apply several drops in a row. Okay. Hold tool flat on the edge of the glossy cardstock and swipe the tool across the surface in one direction. Yeah, I was worried how this was going to look. I just made a huge plaid. Also use a smaller applicator instead of just selectively if you want to be more exact about it. Okay, turn the cardstock and swipe the tool across the surface in the opposite direction to create a plaid. I feel like this could get really funky. I'm going to do this way with blue because in theory blue and red make purple, right? So the intersecting line should be purple. Now we're getting fancy. Where did I put the... Okay. Do the same thing again. Ta-da. I'm not sure I like the fact that I just put way too much blending solution on the card. So, not necessarily the look they wanted us to go for. All right. So this is why I wanted to do it. I wanted to see what would happen when you layer these colors. You can see a little bit of color shift on the overlap. Not too much. I was really hoping for a bold color. So because it's drying so fast, and we did so little, it was dry literally almost as soon as I went to do the next section. So because those are dry, it literally just looks like the blue is layered over the top of the red. And the same thing would happen with watercolor also. You have to let that dry or you're going to end up with a mess. I'm trying to think of what other mediums would actually blend in those sections. I feel like if you did it fast enough, you could probably make it work. Since this is now experiment, let's see what happens when we blend it with some blender. Does anything happen? Doesn't look like it. So, like I said, that circle's forming around. Still, basically it's a test, or it's a competition to see if how far it can get before it dries. So it created almost like, it looks like reptile scales under it. It didn't blend much of anything. Let's see what happens. No, it doesn't. I think blending needs to be done faster. So this method of using only a tiny little bit of ink, I think, is why this isn't working too well. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're going for. So, test card number 2. And now I'm just going to try something with this one. All right. That's all they tell you in the book. The rest of the instructions are in a foreign language. And obviously it intends you to stamp over any backgrounds. That's really what they're showing you how to do. There's a few more things that I've seen that you can do with alcohol inks that I'd like to try. But So like this one is almost dry. That's kind of cool. Still wet. I can see it, the color shift happening. Yeah, let's see how long, let's just play. All right, so red and blue make purple. So like I said, we were gonna see if we can mix colors and how that works. So blue, red, and then we'll see what happens when they meet. So close. Oh, it looks like algae, not out, yeah, bacteria spores, algae spores. Okay, so they resist each other. That's interesting. Closer. I'm not sure that it'll ever, well, there's some blending. Yeah, so it looks like it's not going to mix without some assistance. It's like one of those old toys that has like oil in one end and oil. There's oil and water, and the oil is colored so that it always separates. That you get like at the, used to get it like the dentist office. That's what this reminds me of. Okay, now I'm just playing. So because that red was pretty much dry, the blue is going to go farther. See, okay, see how that's overlapping like it did on the plaid. And that kind of turned out a little bit purple. Let's see what happens if you do red over blue. It's definitely a different shade. That's if you were super technical, you might be able to get purple out of that. It's almost like a super, super dark purple, like Diox purple. Okay, since we're experimenting now, let's see what happens when we introduce yellow. So, yellow over red, see how we get an orange. That definitely did turn that area into orangey. That's with the blue. There's definitely green. So those do mix okay. The lighter color over the darker color, I'm not sure if it'll work the other way around. So let's see what happens when we add blue. Wait, once it dries. Yeah, so that worked really well. But the blue over the red did not. But the red over the blue did. So now this has become a science experiment. Alright, that's pretty much dry. Yeah, I think it has something to do with whatever's making the shade. So, yep. All right. So it appears to me that whichever color is darker has to be deposited on the paper first. If you put the lighter color over the top, it's going to mix, which makes sense. You can literally still see the other color underneath the new color. That's why that works. The red is obviously significantly more saturated than the yellow. It's overpowering the yellow, so you can't see it as much. So that's why the yellow over the red turns orange. Same for the blue. You can see the same thing happen here. The blue essentially took over for the most part. It blended a little bit. That's because I didn't let it dry all the way. But we definitely had better luck with the yellow down first and then the blue over the top. So this has been a neat experiment. You could continue to do this. Like this kind of looks like a 70s t-shirt in my opinion. So Now I'm just going to spread out some colors in different spots that are not where they've already been. Watch these tips because, like this red one, I haven't done anything else with the red one, but I literally have red all over the end of the bottle. And it's spewing things, so careful. There we go. This is very therapeutic. Bleh, therapeutic. Just don't put too many colors together. That's usually my art method. Anyone can do art, just don't get super repetitive. See, okay, that's how the bottle got all gross. Don't hesitate. If you're gonna go for it, because if you don't, you end up with a mess. So I think in retrospect, and this is a good value, if you have a coupon, I think it was $27.99 at Michael's normally. I had a voucher and a coupon, so I got it down to like 19. For what you get, I think it's a relatively good deal if you're not sure if you want to use it or not. Not sure if you're going to like it. Like I was. I have inks, but I only use the inks for like cursive, so, and I didn't want to commit to getting more ink until I knew if I wanted to use it for something else. It's hard to devote that much money to one particular craft. I like to have supplies that are God, I can't think of the word. Supplies, mediums that can be used for lots of different projects. Universal supplies, sorry. So this has been interesting. If I was going to do this, I think part of the problem is the colors are so bold and different. I would probably focus more on the colors that I use a lot and get closer shades. Which I assume is the point, kind of. You're trying them all out, seeing what you like. I tend to lean toward blues and reds in most of the crafts that I make, cards that I make, and that's most of the time what this is going to be, is card backgrounds. So I would probably pick up some different shades of blue. Don't get too crazy about your different shades though, because that blending solution will lighten pretty much anything. So you want to look more at the actual shade of the color, rather than its tone. So don't worry about if it's too dark or too light. Just focus on the shade. Like this is a teal. I'd probably get one that's blue, like closer to glove blue in this case. So a greenish blue, and like that way on the color spectrum, not focus on things that stay together. I'm trying to see if I have my color wheel hanging around right next to me, but of course I don't. Heaven forbid. Well, closest thing to a color wheel that I have right now. All right, so tonality. You don't worry about that with watercolor either, because you can always add more water to get lighter or darker shades, or lighter shades really. So this is really as dark as you get. You can also add other colors to darken the shade. So just get a couple. You have a teal, which is essentially this in here. Go lighter blue, and or like a cooler blue and a warmer blue, and then you're good. You don't have to get one of every color to make it work. Just focus on some very different shades, and then you can use them to create, you know, whatever you're looking to create in the darker, deeper, or lighter points. I think that's it. I said we'd stamp the rest of these, but none of these are dry enough. There's still an air bubble on that one. I'm not sure I like the swipey thing. That's what happened with the swipey thing. Ends up being just a mess. You can't even see the red. This one looks like a Rorschach test, but kind of neat. It reminds me of something. Bacteria strains in a microscope. That's what that looks like. This is the first one. The trees are super, super fuzzy. You know what? We're not going to do anything with that, so I might as well try to stamp it again while we're still talking. Yep, I don't mind this. I don't know what I'd do with it, but I don't mind it. It's the least awful of the options, I think. This is coming in a close second. That kind of makes its own little border. You could put something in the middle. That could be a useful card background at some point. Not a waste, I guess. All right, I'm gonna try these trees again. No, I'm not, because, well, I want our test to be the same, so I guess I'm gonna try the trees again. All right, I'm not gonna stamp the whole thing though. Okay. So this one has been drying the whole time. So do the same thing that we did before. Not worried about this part, but if you see the tree tips, they're literally not clear. And that's not the stamp. So pause. So that was the distressed ink, and that's what I said about the distressed ink. It can blow out on almost. I don't know what else to call that. And make the situation worse. I don't have, where's my black? I think it died. Oh man. Okay, well, it's the only ink pad I have with a giant in here. I don't know where my mini one went. Now, this pad is so big, I have no option but to bring the stamp to the pad, which I don't like. Just did this half. It looks better already. It's more, it's see what happens. Yeah, that's better. They're a little bit more defined. They're still awfully drawn out there. So if you look at a normal piece of paper that's not glossy, this was our cleanup paper from the other page. If you stamp this entire stamp in the archival, and like I said, I don't have the pad underneath it, so there might be some missing parts here. There. That's definitely a different image. The edges are crisp and strong. They're not fuzzy at all. So you can see compared, look at all three of those. So whether or not if that's something you're going for, I just don't want you to ruin a background that you like by stamping over it with a distressed ink, or even Archiver. I mean, yeah, it was a little bit better. This is essentially the same thing. One's distressed and one is just the Archival. I use Archival to do anything that I'm going to paint over or do anything else to. Once it's dry, it's permanent. The other kind of ink is dye-based ink instead of pigment-based ink. Dye-based ink. Memento is the brand that I use. I have, you probably just saw it, a ton. This is the ink that you can, if you get to it fast enough, you can emboss using it. So let's see what happens here. Stamp it up here. I just want to see the tips of the trees because that's what we've been comparing. I think it might be the glossy cardstock, because at this point, you can see there. I hope you can see there. Again, look at how crisp the top of that tree is compared to the tops of these. So, regardless of what kind of ink you're using, Archival definitely did the best. Just to show you what I'm talking about, you can put this on a standard piece of cardstock. There shouldn't be much difference. However, water soluble, the Memento, if you try to paint over it, it will smudge and make a mess. Yeah. You look at the tops there. Not as crisp, a little bit blown out. So, impromptu ink test with the alcohol inks. I think it has to do a lot also with stamping on that glossy cardstock. You know, if you look at their examples in the book, they look a little blurry, and that's just really not the look I'm ever really going for. I want my images to be crisp, clean. If I want them to be smudged, it's easy to smudge them with a stamp. You can, you know, move your stamp around a little bit when you're doing it, end up with uncrisp image that way. So regardless, it depends on what you're going for. Totally, I think it is worth the money, especially if you use the coupon. I'm sure it might be cheaper on Amazon. I'll look for it and put a link in the description if I can find it. But other than that, I think this was a fun experiment. I look forward to using some more alcohol ink in some of the card things that we do going forward. And until next time, have fun.